Hi, welcome. Here we are on week 2, and your students should be logging on to the digital experience, doing their activities, earning their points, decorating their room. But now also you as the teacher, you need to start incorporating the print experience. Now, whether you're doing the elementary or the secondary experience, you'll still be using a teacher's edition. Each system, elementary and secondary, has a volume A and a volume B. For today's purposes, we're going to look at the elementary story. It's the Dying Detective, the adventure of the Dying Detective. Now, if you're at the secondary unit, you'll be doing a different story. But remember, the formats are all the same, so don't worry. As we walk through the lesson, it'll still look very similar for you. It'll just be a different story that you'll be accessing. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and discuss how to use the Teacher's Edition in the print experience for Flex Literacy. Now, once I've clicked on my class, then remember all of my tabs will appear in this dark gray bar up above. So if I click on Classroom, you can see here I'm at a certain story, the Bermuda Triangle, and you can see that I can access this story by clicking on this icon right here. But I want to show you the first story of the Teacher's Edition, so I'm going to show you how to find that. If you go over here on the right-hand side to Resources and click on it, you will see that a resource library pops up. Now, right now we're talking about the print experience, so I'm going to click on the Print Experience tab, and you can see that I have all of my weeks of instruction right here. Let's start with the first story, The Adventure of the Dying Detective. Now remember, you can use your Teacher's Edition and you can go ahead and access it that way, but if you want to do an e-presentation on an interactive whiteboard, this is the way that you can do it. So once I click on it, it'll open up for me, and even if you just have a regular whiteboard, we've provided you the tools here to make it interactive, so you do have some choices here. So first I want to show you some of the tools that are available to you. Here you can see you've got your cursor, so I can go ahead and click on things like if I want to circle the title. The next piece that I have is the timer, so if I want my students to take 1 minute and skim through the paragraph and find the evidence to support their answer, I can set the timer for that. If I want to dig deeper and magnify the lesson, I can show you how we'll do that, and I'm going to wait till we get into the story to show you that one. We also have our underlining pen, and we also have our highlighter here. And then of course we always need to have our eraser handy. So let's go ahead and show you how to go ahead and start some of these lessons. So if I have my Teacher's Edition here, I know that on day 1, this is when I want to motivate and I want to engage my students in talking. So I may ask them questions such as, let's look at the story, let's look at the cover, and let's talk about what we see. What would you do if you had to solve a mystery? What would you need to be careful about? And then we really want to get that discussion, that collaborative conversation going here. And this is only just by looking at the first page here. And then we want to talk about the story elements on day 1 and how we can look at the title. So what happens here is we're really teaching our students the text features of a story. So you can have them circle the title, and you can do it right along with them. You can have them underline the author, and you do it right with them, and even the illustrator. And then here we also want to talk about, is this story fiction or nonfiction? Go ahead, get the debate going, deciding what is fiction, what is nonfiction. But in your Teacher's Edition, it is scripted out there for you to go ahead and discuss the difference between fiction and nonfiction. And then we want to talk about what that purpose for reading is. So you can talk about the title. Now, if you want to go ahead and type in some of the things your students are saying, you can click on the box and you can just start typing with your keyboard here. Through your keyboard, or even clicking on the keys. However, if you wanted it just to go ahead and populate for you, you can click on this little button here and the answer will come out for you. So it's really whatever's easiest for you. I have some teachers that have the students come up and they type. Again, it's whatever's easiest. And so then you can click on building that background knowledge for your students. And this is how you'll walk through your day 1 of instruction. Walking through the story. Now, how do I get to my next page? Do you see the little buttons here at the bottom? I simply click on the next page and that story will come up. And then we can go ahead and talk about setting that purpose for reading. And we want to model for the students what we write. And here we can talk about our characters, vocabulary here at the bottom, and talk about the setting. Let's say we wanted to dig a little deeper. Remember, I was going to show you the magnifying glass piece. I click on the magnifying glass, and then I can actually highlight my paragraph for me, and it'll zoom in. And then that's easier for our students who are struggling on how to find the evidence. They can actually zoom in, and they can then highlight when they find the evidence to support their answer. So here, this is just showing you how you're really teaching them how to do these features by zooming in and highlighting for them. Again, remember, this is at the model stage of learning, so you're really going to model these features for them. We'll go ahead and zoom out, clear our screen, and look at our next story. Our next page in our story. So, again, we've got our characters, our setting, talking about what's happening first in the story. Remembering, if I click on these buttons, that'll go ahead and put in the notes for me automatically, or we can literally type right in if we want to. Don't forget those features as well. All right, so you can see as we're walking through the different lessons, students are making predictions on that lesson. On day one, they're building their background, and now this is where on day one, you, the teacher, you're reading aloud for the students. Also notice in your teacher's edition, on day one, you have a skill differentiation box. So you'll spend about 15 minutes on this part of the lesson, reading the story, talking about the purpose, building the background, but then you'll also note your skill differentiation box in your teacher's edition, where you can go ahead and spend about 10 minutes and see if your students need to have any other additional skills worked on for them. And then on day 2 of instruction in your teacher's edition, there you're going to go back, you'll finish up going back to this day 1 of instruction. You'll talk about reviewing the story, what you worked on yesterday. You'll go back, introduce the vocabulary. You'll reread the story, and again, you'll reread that story and really share with students that here on day 2, we're going to reread the first part of the story, and you really want them to pay attention to the vocabulary words, cluttered or inquired. And if they hear them, they're supposed to give you some kind of thumbs up or raise their hand and let you know that they're really engaged and they're paying attention. And then here we're going through, we're identifying those story elements again, walking the students through this. But here we really want, notice our purpose is changing, we really want our students to figure out how to highlight and take notes within the story. So you can see throughout the lesson you have these red boxes for notes. This is where we want to teach our students how to look at our readings closely, how to do those close readings. So as they're thinking of things in the story, we want them to write notes. But don't forget, if you need something to generate that conversation, you've got notes already populated there at your fingertips. Something else I want you to notice on your day 2 of instruction is this is where, again, we're getting that discussion and that debate. Some of these stories are going to be a little bit higher lexile than where your students are currently reading, and that's okay. We want them to be a part of that discussion and that debate. And notice here in your instruction in your teacher's edition, you're really going to be looking at literal and inferential questions. So you'll really want to focus on that on your day 2 of instruction. We're also at this point going to make that prediction that we had talked about before, so that on the next day we can actually see we're going to make the prediction, and then on the next day we actually will verify that prediction on day 3. So as we walk through day 3, again, we're using the same story. We're walking through our various features of the story, and we're going to go ahead, we review the story. If we can call on students if it's appropriate, we can ask them to read a little bit. We'll go back, review our vocabulary, reading the story, highlighting, taking our notes, again, having that discussion and that debate for day 3. And here again, we're going to verify those predictions that we had talked about. We want to make sure students understand, was their prediction correct? And then they need to be able to show the evidence to support that prediction. And then as we move through days 4 and 5, we're going to be finishing up, going through our story. Here we want students to focus on reflecting, retelling the story, finishing up their vocabulary page. That's at the last page of their interactive reader. Here you can see it on the screen. It's called a vocabulary review. This takes place on day 4. They'll also compare the characters. They'll make some connections. And then they'll also do some skill differentiations on day 4 and 5. So remember, we had it on day 1, and now we're at day 4 and 5, and we're also going to do critical thinking applications here. Every student will do a critical thinking application based on the story they've read for that week, but not every student's critical thinking application will be the same. It's based on their independent reading level, but that will take place on days 4 and 5 during skill differentiation time. So here you can see you can access the print experience solely out of your teacher's edition, but if you would like to add the e-presentation, you have the entire interactive reader here at your fingertips and your toolbar to help you navigate through.